Hello, filmmakers, and welcome to the Wedding Film School Show, a podcast dedicated to the craft, business, and personal aspect of running a wedding film brand. The Wedding Film School Show is hosted by myself, Jared Haskell, and my longtime business partner, Jason McCutcheon. If you're looking for free resources or to get your wedding film business off the ground, make sure to check out weddingfilm.school or check us out on Instagram for news, giveaways, and more. So Jay, I think I solved a conundrum.
Yeah.
It's a wedding film conundrum for wedding filmmakers that we've been discussing since the dawn of wedding videography time. Okay.
Yep.
And it's the idea, and I want to hear your thoughts.
Is it what is best quality camera?
No, not what is best quality camera. That is the first question to ever be uttered in a Facebook
which color
group.
Profile should I have on Sony?
Yes.
Yeah, those are if we can solve those two problems.
No, it's a different problem that sometimes you hear hashed out in maybe a group conversation or a Facebook group, and that's the idea of are we videographers or are we wedding filmmakers? Right? And I think I've solved it. I want to hear your thoughts. Okay. So I would say that a wedding filmmaker is a videographer in the same way that a content creator is a videographer, right? But a wedding filmmaker is not a content creator. Does that make sense?
Yes. Well,
it's an umbrella term. Videographer is now the umbrella term.
By definition, you are a videographer, by the way. You're not shooting film. You are a videographer.
Yes.
I think we like videographer because I think most people use filmmaker to mean like how they tell stories and what their videos look like. But ultimately, it's video.
Right. Yeah. It's
I
definitely
agree with you.
It's definitely video. But I think the difference between like a content creator is, and they're gonna hate hearing this, and why I kind of love saying it.
I mean, no offense, content creators, but you haven't earned your seat at the table yet. So we can say whatever we want.
I know. Well, a content
Take
creator
your licks.
Is just a phone videographer.
Yeah,
that's all they are. Like they aren't actually a content creator. They don't create content.
No.
In a way, like a content creator is, as far as I know, a YouTuber who's making a full video.
But it's just a limitation of language, right? It's like no word actually properly describes hardly anything.
Sure.
But yes, but I would agree with you.
What best describes, yes.
I would agree with you, and I'm fine being a videographer, by the way. That's what I actually think of myself as.
Yeah.
A videographer, and an event videographer.
Yeah. I don't know why, but I usually say event filmmaker just because.
I do too, because marketing. Sales.
Marketing, I think it sounds better. It does. But also, I like to think when I say filmmaker, there's the aspect of creative editing to it that maybe with a videographer, there isn't always that creative aspect.
I think, this is my response to it. If you are making a film like this, hey guys, what are we doing today? Like, let's just turn on our cameras and see what happens in front of them. That's not a story that you're telling, but that's what you have to do, which is why I'm an event videographer, because very infrequently do I get to actually do anything that resembles creative control on the day and me telling the story. I'm not doing that. I'm documenting with a video camera what's in front of me, and even in the best case scenario, with very, very few exceptions. And there are exceptions. Like when I see, whether it's, I don't know, filmmaker might not be the term because he's got like that TV style, but like Justin Porter is doing something different. Alex Douglas from Sculpting with Time is doing something different than that. Not always, but often. Every so often I get to dip my toe in real storytelling, right? That's like me, and we're doing this film coming up, and they have a family garden, and we're going to try to document them cutting the flowers from the family garden and putting it in the bouquet. Like, that's kind of storytelling. That's filmmakery. And the rest of the day, though, I'm just going to be following this one person around, documenting what they do. Like, it's okay, guys. You could get paid a lot of money to do that. So just like, who cares? You just don't call me late for dinner.
Yeah.
I don't care what you call me.
Yeah.
Just pay me.
Totally. So anyways, we do have another
Controversial issue?
No, I don't know about controversial.
This is controversial.
Okay, great. Well, it's maybe what some would consider like an argument of semantics. But I think it's important to dive into it. I always advocate for a common language in the wedding videographer world, right?
Basically agree.
And so I think it's important to have these conversations, which have always really like annoyed me. So hopefully this conversation doesn't annoy people at home.
I hope it annoys people so bad that they subscribe and like and follow.
Right. And that is the idea of something that is timeless versus what is a trend in the industry, right?
Well, those are like the common juxtapositions that are put out there, right? It's like, don't be trendy, be timeless, right?
Hey guys, Bobby popping in quick to let you know that this episode of the podcast was brought to you by Tamron. Providing filmmakers with the perfect mix of performance and value, Tamron has every type of lens to fit your needs. With their moisture-resistant construction, close-focusing abilities, 6-year warranty, and remarkable optical performance, Tamron lenses can help you upgrade your wedding films. I know I personally keep the 28-75 2.8 in my bag, and I often reach for it on a wedding day. So send them some love for making this episode possible. Check out some of their lens options in our gear link below or at www.tamron-americas.com.
I think it's pretty important, just right off the bat, I think we should define what maybe people's expectations of what those words mean, like maybe what commonly is known about these, and then what our personal kind of definitions would fall under. So like when someone says like, I want a film that feels super timeless, how would you describe that film?
There are no timeless films. There are no timeless looks. The only thing that is timeless are ideas and concepts, right? Like if you look at history, like people have always preserved these ideas and concepts that families and love and people matter and are important. And so to me, when I think of timeless, right, I think of that first. I do think what most people mean is not overly styled in a way that is going to make it look dated. But you know, there's a flip side to that too. But I do think that's probably what people mean is like when you say timeless is like not just following the whatever the trend is at the moment with whatever transition people are using or whatever. I mean, believe it or not, guys, at one point in photo and video, not that long ago, dude, sepia was the thing. And they wouldn't call it sepia, but it was sepia. Mm-hmm. Brown, everything is brown. It was like literally the most trendy thing you could possibly have. And then it was light and airy, right? And which I think is more timeless, by the way, than sepia, because it's based off of film, which is inherently nostalgic. But I think at the end of the day, like there's there's these visual trends that happen, selective color back in the photos world, tilt shift lenses, things that make you think of a certain period of time that is very small. That to me be what they're trying to avoid, is making them be like, oh, was that made in 2010? Was that made in 2023? Was that made like just kind of fixated in like a period of time? And usually it's some trend within our communities. I have a lot of beef with that, but that to answer your question, that's my answer.
Yeah, I think to a lot of people, when they talk about trends, they're talking about temporary things that set in time, a small sliver in time where they were like, remember when that was cool?
Maybe not even temporary, by the way, but new. A lot of times it's new.
New, yeah, I think that's fair. But then when they talk about timelessness, it's like a trend that lasted a longer period of time.
Yeah, that's all they mean.
That's all they mean, right? And that's timeless. That's like the old money look. Is like, oh, someone would describe that as a timeless look because it's been around since, I don't know, Paul Newman or something like, but you're just talking about a trend that has lasted 30 to 40 years.
I mean, you could also say like basic, boring, samey, like sure. Like you could talk about that negatively if you wanted.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Anyway,
sure. But I think I agree with you in that real timelessness is more of a concept. Something like people care about people. People will always like a film, applying it to art, art. People always like a film that talks about a generationally, loved concept like family. Something that's built into like human nature, like family. I care about those people that I'm watching because they're people that I love. Like, that is timeless. That is a timeless
I'll flip the hat
right?
backwards because I'm realizing people can't see my face on camera. So
right.
Now
It's a
I'm
good
like
thing.
I'm backwards hat, Jay.
Okay.
So.
If you're watching or if you're listening on the podcast,
If you notice a
it's gonna
dramatic shift in how I communicate,
it's going to be intense now. Yeah. But yeah, and I think that there's a lot of trends out there that are actually a good thing. I always hear people talk about trends versus timelessness, like trends bad, timelessness good. What do you think of that concept?
stupid. It's a stupid concept. You don't it tells me that you're unsuccessful or new. That you think that this isn't happening all the time. It's like, oh, gimbals are so dumb. I want to shoot handheld now. It's like, no, dude. The fact that the only issue that you can, I don't see, what I think most people really should be concerned with is not timelessness, but sameness on the market. Like, what can you do to distinguish yourself from other people? And I think that's what they're really saying. It's like, oh, everyone's doing this, and I want to look like everyone else. And that's one total different concern. Like, if everyone else is, like, FPV drones is a good example. I hate that look. If you're doing one, okay, fine. If your clients are happy, okay, fine. On a personal level, for me, I think that they're worthless in weddings. I hate them. They look stupid.
Hopefully Ray Roman doesn't listen to this.
Listen, I've talked to Ray about it.
Yeah.
And I've been like, I think it's dumb. And his response is, my clients literally specifically asked for it. And you know what I would do if they asked for it? I would do it.
Charge them a lot of money.
And I would fly that FPV drone because they asked me for it. Maybe not. But
Sure.
But in general, it's like, I understand. Like, I don't care if someone does it. It's just for me.
Right.
I don't like it. I would not consider that to be a trend. Like, some people are using it, but like, you're not seeing FPV drones in everyone's films.
Right.
But it does, to me, date your film.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really know where that line is, right? Because I don't have a problem with people like whip transitions. We're very trendy. I think less people are doing them. I still do them because I like them. So you can do something so long that it actually comes back into style and out of style, and everyone needs to realize that. Mm-hmm. Like, everything you're doing probably has been in style at one point.
Right.
And then it will go out of style. And like, the real question I think with a lot of people is not, is timelessness good and trendiness bad? It's, do you even have a perspective of your own?
Yep.
What is your perspective?
Yep.
What are you going to do anyway? Like, with your films that are going to set you apart?
Yeah. So I think that a lot of trends, like when people say trends, they think of something like opening drone shot. That's a trend in the last, let's just say 4 or 5 years, right? Maybe more, but like, everyone is opening with a drone shot. I don't necessarily think that's objectively good or bad.
It's nothing.
It's nothing. It's just a way to open a film. Font on said drone shot with couple's name. Maybe it's yellow font, right? With the couple's name and a cool font. Tarantino font, whatever it is. That's something that's come on the scene. Like, I think Eugene was one of the first people I saw do that, and that was like, oh, that's cool.
No, Eugene was definitely after Bottle Brush.
Oh yeah. Bottle Brush too. Eugene Bottle Brush, like that kind of whole.
No offense, Eugene.
And
from dang, what's their company name again? The Drakes.
The Drakes. Yeah. But I think that that caught on, after Eugene's film went pretty viral. A lot of people started posting that kind of stuff. I don't necessarily think it's good or bad. Like, people would be like, that's a trend. That's you copying someone else, and that is bad. And my hot take would be, actually, these things are, for our industry as a whole abroad, are actually a really good thing. And here's why.
I agree.
You have to have a baseline of expectations. Mm-hmm. So when someone hires a wedding filmmaker, what are they expecting from that wedding filmmaker? What do they think about when they think about wedding filmmaking. Do they think about the guy with the camera on his shoulder? They don't think about that anymore because it doesn't exist. We've set a different standard. And so when you are setting your standards now, those things just become standard. They're not necessarily like the trend. Opening drone shot is just the standard now.
Yeah.
It's become, and these types of like trends are so low barrier to entry. They're so easy to do. And it actually teaches filmmakers how to have a sustainable type of edit, a sustainable type of business. Like when they're thinking about doing an edit, they're like, well, this person does that. I can do a drone shot like that. I can do the same thing. And so you have to have that baseline standard of what a wedding film is in order to even have unique perspective, right? And differentiate yourself and start charging more money.
Well, that's why I'm saying what your focus should be is like when you're starting out, you should just try to get paid.
Yes.
And because that will give you the opportunity to develop a perspective.
Right.
You can't. I was talking about one of our guys, Travis, the other day, and he is shooting so good this year. And last year he shot pretty good. And the year before that, he shot acceptably. Right? He has been to hundreds of weddings. He has edited hundreds of weddings. Just now, he's been shooting with since, I think, 2019, right? Maybe 2018.
Yep.
And now he's finally developing his own things. Like, I can tell his shooting, like, it has its own fingerprint and its own perspective. So many people, it's like cutting off your nose to spite your face. Like, you would rather not get booked, not have the reps available to you to actually say something substantial because you're trying to say something substantial before you're ready.
Yeah.
You don't have anything to say.
Right.
Like, okay, what are you going to do instead of whip your camera? Oh, I'm going to do this because no one's doing this. You know why no one's doing that? Because it's terrible. Like, what you're doing is not interesting. It's not going to sell wedding films. It's not good. Like, it's like...
Doing it just to be different isn't necessarily good,
like
right?
I'll always bring it back to that concrete I got served at that fine dining restaurant where they're like, they walk out and they give me this gelatinized concrete, and the guy brings it out to me and he's like, it's this fine dining restaurant, one of the most expensive meals I've ever paid for, like $300 a person, and he brings it out and he's like, to finish our night we have the 4 goos. He didn't say that, but it was like, you know, like 4 blocks of gelatin on a plate, and he like says what they are, and they were like, whatever. And then the last one, he's like, and concrete. And I was like, concrete? Like, what? And he was like, you can eat it. And I was like, dude, I wasn't questioning, can I eat this? Clearly you're not going to serve me inedible food. I'm saying, like, bad idea, dude.
Yeah.
I've never had this before. Well, yeah, it's unique. No one's ever served concrete before. It's like, I'm sure, like, there's a reason for that. Because it and you know what it tasted like?
We're still talking about it. So
you know what it tasted like?
I bet I know what it tasted like.
Concrete.
Yeah.
It tasted just like concrete. And it's like so many people are making that exact film. That, like, not really, by the way, not so many people, but people often will eschew cheat codes like you're mentioning, things that will tell them, like, listen, if it's trendy, guys, it's because the market is rewarding it. Customers are rewarding it, and they want it. And so I think the question I want to get to is, what does it matter? And can anything be timeless in aesthetics? And I think the answer is no. Like, anyone who's an interior designer is not trying to design the entire thing, like the same exact design their entire career. They might have a signature. Like, I like to use pops of color, but like every artist goes through, the best artist, I'm telling you guys, not the most commercially successful maybe, but the people that we're trying to like emulate, whether it be like freaking, I don't know, like Picasso or anybody, they go through periods of distinctive artistic expression that date them. And that's a feature, not a bug. And I always say, like, why do we feel the idea of nostalgia is the idea of associating something positive with a trend. That is nostalgia 101. It's like, oh, remember back when people dressed like this? Remember, like, hamburgers are nostalgic. Like Americana and diner food and all that. Like, we don't reject that in any way. We don't, like, if you walked into like a restaurant and they were playing like 1950s music, that is trendy. and it is dated. We're like, oh, this music's timeless. It is not timeless. You like it because it is dated. You don't like it because it's timeless. You like it because it reminds you of the 1950s.
Right.
And it's like, that is part of our job, because you know what? When someone got married is very important to their story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I agree that there's only so much you can do when it comes to, like, if you watch a wedding film from the 80s, it's not just about the medium that it's shot on. It's not just that it's shot on tape or, film potentially. It's the fact that everyone was wearing those Princess Diana poof dresses with the shoulders. The trend isn't even in the film. It's in what people looked like. Was there music there? What was that like? I bet it was 80s music.
The technology that made it possible.
Yeah.
How do you edit?
Right. So everything else involved dates it at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, the common theme of what makes it interesting is that you love your family. And you want to watch that film because you want to see the person you love back at a time when they were getting married. Like, that is the common theme. That is a timeless concept, right? So it's not about, like, using a certain whip or pan or transition or whatever. It's about the themes that you're using in your film and trying to really tell, like, again, when I was in film school, like, the director of the film school would always say, people care about people. And it always comes back to that. Like, that is probably the most timeless concept that you can grasp onto, I think, in wedding film.
Well, and also, like, people want things to be trendy.
Yeah.
Like you can't on one hand be like part of culture and want something to be relevant to that culture, and on the other hand want it to always be relevant to that culture, because like your art, part of the beauty of art is that it represents a signpost, and it's supposed to be dated because it's supposed to be part of how we create collective memory in societies. Is like, look at our art, like look at caveman paintings, look at freaking all the great pieces of art around Europe and all the like those. Think about those cathedrals. Most of those churches, no one goes to them. They're literally sitting there as a monument.
Well, people go there. They're just tourists.
They just go to look at this beautiful
Yeah.
piece of art. The fact that it is not the fact that it's like, they go, oh, it's timeless. It's like, no, it's not. It's timeless because it's dated. Like people, there's something about thinking about the time. Like, you can never go back in time and make that cathedral again. The resources to make it, the people, the time, the abuse that they went into jamming all these workers in there. Like, this represents a unique period in the history of mankind. And I think your films can be the same way. And it's not just about, like, now given, I think what we're really talking about that is a legitimate point is doing something just because it's trendy. Although I think if you were a brand new filmmaker, it's not a bad way to go. But also, taste. Their taste is more important to me than timelessness. Good taste.
Yep.
And having like a concept of like what is tacky and what is lowbrow. And I think that is a legitimate. No one has that argument, by the way. I mean, when is the last time you heard somebody be like, "That's a tasteless wedding film"?
Yeah, never. Maybe on WFS Live.
Maybe me.
Yeah.
But like, I think that's really ultimately what actually should bother people is like, does your film reflect a refined visual palette? Does it make you look like you don't understand what is actually cool and what is beautiful and what is trendy? And simplicity is ultimately very beautiful, and so over complexity is ultimately kills authenticity. And so I think that's what people are picking up on a lot of times is like when someone's doing something, like we will do very extreme camera whips and crazy whippies and spinnies and all that junk. It's such a small part of our film.
Yeah.
In any of the stuff we do, and we don't do them in every wedding. There's a wedding coming up, Manchester by the Sea. We were talking to the wedding planner last night. I'm sure both of our brains are kicking, right? we're not going to shoot it the same way that we shot that wedding in Boston for her last year.
Yeah.
It's just not the right thing. It's not like we are not going to use it. But if it was the right thing, I will do that.
Yeah.
I'll do anything that works for the film.
Yeah.
So I think like cutting something out of your creative palette because it's trendy is very stupid. And I don't like when people do that.
Yeah. I think it's more the reason why people say like don't be trendy, be timeless is they really just want to say don't be like the rest of the pack, which is also an okay conversation if you're talking to an experienced wedding filmmaker who does want to differentiate themselves.
I don't it kind of doesn't
maybe.
matter at the beginning of the market.
But yeah, if you're just starting out, I actually think it's kind of bad advice if you're
think
just
it's very
starting out.
bad advice.
I think there are plenty of other things that a new filmmaker should be working on outside of, besides trying to find their own voice, which is really more the conversation, trying to find your own voice, I guess. But also, like, when we're talking about trends, like, who are the people that are oftentimes creating the trends out there? They're usually the best wedding filmmakers,
best people.
right?
Yeah.
Like everything that, at a
should be.
time, like Henry was doing, everyone wanted to do a Henry. Then, Alex and Ray and Sharon, like
Justin
people,
Porter right now.
Justin Porter, really? I don't see a lot of people trying to do it.
Oh,
Justin
dude.
Porter,
Anyone
so.
getting involved, nobody's trying to do it, but all the new people think that's what they want to do. They're about to find out that no one will pay for that. But no offense to Justin, because I don't know the guy and I don't really care. People are paying him to do what he does. It doesn't matter to me. But I don't think that many people want to pay for that. Mm-hmm. He's just done a good job creating his own market. And he's like a celebrity. He's not like I don't think his product is the thing that people want. Mm-hmm. I heard somebody say the other day, like, oh, is the market going to be taken over by Justin Porter films? This is where we get into timelessness.
Okay.
Because the answer is, heck no. You think. So if you don't know what his films are, they're basically, they do interviews and they're like, they have a mic up all day. They have tons of lights, gigantic cameras, steady cam. They shoot it like a reality TV show.
Yes. It's not a documentary. It's a reality TV show.
Reality TV show.
Yes.
And that is very dated because it's representing a type of television that is very popular with a certain type of person, not everyone. And very few couples will participate in that because it's not tapping into the timeless aspect of the wedding, which is the marriage. It's tapping into a dated aspect of culture, which is reality TV. That is dated. And it's okay. I'm not throwing shade at Justin Porter for that. And I'm sure he would be the first person to agree. Like, he's not going to be able to make these films for another 50 years. Or maybe he will. Who knows? Maybe it does take over. But I kind of think probably not, because I think it's not. That to me is dated.
Yeah. I love working in a field that can be pretty diverse in terms of.
Yes.
You can have an Alex. You can have a Ray, you can have a Sharon, you can have a Justin Porter, you can have, Matt Johnson, you can have all these different people, a Stanton doing elopements. Like,
yes.
It's actually much more diverse than photographers. What photographers are doing now, dude, everyone's work in the high-end market.
Well, what are they going to do?
I don't know. What are they going to do?
You're going to take a picture and grade it one of four ways.
The medium that we do allows people to do such different work, which is really cool.
Yes.
I think videographers are really finding their own voice now.
And by the way, with Justin Porter, I'm sure all the timeless aspects, I mean, I know I've seen the films. They're reflected in the films. That's actually what the couple probably loves about them. But I just don't think everyone in the market is going to want to buy that film. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh, sure. The market is pretty small for that type of person. For now, we'll see.
I just can't imagine people are going to want to. There's such a few people that want to participate in that production.
In New England, I can tell you, it would be very small. All the doctors and lawyers up here would see that and be like, never in a million years. Might be a couple, sure, but they have a decent budget, and maybe people can get them. But it's not something I'm going to base my business off of. It would just be so hard to just find the people.
That's what I'm talking about. I don't think a lot of people want to be in a reality TV show.
Right. So, but yeah, I think there are people at the high end who are setting these certain trends, right? And certain the ones stick. I think the ones that end up sticking are, again, kind of those like low barrier to entry, like opening drone shot. Everyone in the world can do that. That's a trend that someone did, and it was just like, hey, I can do that. Everyone can do that. People that are doing things super advanced, high barrier to entry, people that are just like animals, Alex, Ray, people that are just workaholics that are going to wake up at 4 a.m. to climb a mountain and then fly their drone because the sun looks like it's going to be great. And then, just
work till 1 a.m.
Work till 1 a.m. and absolutely kill themselves. That's high barrier to entry. That's hard to do. And to have certain concepts, those kind of trends, the reason why they don't become trends, even though they're high value and everyone looks at it and goes, oh my gosh, that's amazing. It's because it's really hard to do. It doesn't become necessarily a trend.
Yeah,
right?
Typically what a trend reflects when people say trend is something that's easy to do that's based on a piece of gear or a singular technique.
Right.
It's like anyone can fly a drone. Anyone can whip their camera on the dance floor.
Yep.
Anyone can grade it a certain way.
Yep.
Like
and so there is an aspect of it as being cheap.
Yeah.
Trends are cheap.
Yeah.
Like
it's like cheap, like social, like equity.
Yeah. I saw a quote the other day, and it was like, trendiness is the step before gaudiness, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's trendy because it's cool, but it's really close to being really tacky, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, like a trend will always start with trend setter.
Yep.
Then everyone follows the trend, and then it goes away. But some people figure out how to do it really good.
Right.
And like you think about like bell bottoms,
mm-hmm.
right? Which really are flared pants. People didn't used to wear flared pants at all. Then everyone wore really flared pants. And then we just had flared pants.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're part of pants.
Mm-hmm.
And you can buy flared pants. And nobody thinks, oh my God, look at you following the trends wearing flared pants. Now, given they can be more popular in a season of life than others, but there's always flared pants. You can always go to the store. And like the impact of the trend is that there becomes a diminished application and another tool set to express yourself.
Yes.
And so I'm always like, don't reject it. Like camera whips are a good tool.
Yeah.
You're telling me like learning how to do camera whip transitions is bad?
No,
it's better to know how to do it than not know how to do it. It's
right.
better to know how to fly your drone. It's better to know how to grade your camera. Like even selective color, like, oh, so you have the skill to do selective color? Oh, that's dumb. I can't do that at all and never have once done it. Okay, so you have no idea how to do it?
Right.
Like,
but also Schindler's List.
Great.
Spielberg. Like, he did it, and it was awesome. It was
Freaking
very intentional. Like
Wizard of
trendsetter.
Oz.
Yeah.
Like, get out of here with that. It's like, it's not that it's bad. It's just like when it's not intentional and you're being lazy.
Yeah.
That's what people are reacting to, I think.
Yeah.
Is like, you got to be careful. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Is like, really, really good artists will take any trendy thing and they can still use it in the right application in a way that is tasteful. And that's why taste is what I'm talking about. It's like, it's the correct application of a trend that makes it look like you're doing it because it's the right choice and not because everyone else is doing it.
Yeah. And here's the other aspect of it too, is I do feel like the medium matters. Like doing a teaser edit, I might make that a little bit more trendy because it's going to live for a week and then it dies. It's gone. Whereas like the full film, the longer film, maybe I don't do as many crazy things because I want it to be more focused on the family and things that are going to be a little less, I don't know, edgy, right? Like I don't want it to be as edgy as the teaser, which is going to live just
what's the purpose of the thing that you made?
Right.
You know, is if the purpose, this is what people don't think about with their marketing is like, if the purpose is to get new clients, which is the purpose of marketing, it has to work with trends. Like if the purpose is to give the client something, then why don't you just give it to the client?
Yeah.
Like, and we know this firsthand because we make these planner reels, right? And every so often we'll make a planner reel, and then the planner might not understand, and they give it directly to the couple, and the couple will be like, "We don't like this. It doesn't have like the things that are important to us." And I told the planner recently, I said, like, just so you know, like, I know that. I would have never made that film for them.
Right.
Because like we know what's important to the client, but we also know what's important to Instagram. And so we're not going to make the same thing for Instagram as we're going to make for a couple.
Right.
Because with Instagram, we're sensitive to what is going to get engagement because we are trying to make money. We're trying to get booked.
Yeah. Yeah, I think even like the music that we use on an Instagram reel, I'm going to look at trending audio because what is cool right now? Maybe I'm going to be more willing to use like a hip hop song on a teaser for Instagram, whereas in a wedding film, I might never. Like a certain couple, it would be a very specific type of couple, maybe.
We haven't yet.
We haven't. Over 1,000 wedding films that we've made. But you want something that's kind of more wider audience for the longer film that's going to last a longer amount of time. You want everyone to be happy.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. Because I think this is where we're like starting to move into. If you're new and you're listening to this podcast, I apologize in some ways because you could be like, what are these guys talking about? Like you're just trying to make a film. You're just, whatever it is, like you're just realize you're probably just following trends. And also realize I don't judge you for that. I think it's great. Just
see, I disagree. The people that first start, this is the important conversation they care about, and I hope they do listen to this.
I hope they do too, but I'm just saying, like, they might not understand that this is a controversy in wedding filmmaking.
Sure.
So they're like, "Why does this matter?" I'm just like, whatever. I'm just making the film. Trying to copy these guys and get paid. I think that's a fine way to do it. I think the more you do it. If you're talking about the art of wedding filmmaking, it is always about figuring out your voice and what you do best and having a signature to your brand. And I think I've been kind of pro trends until this one moment where I will say this. You do need to know what does not, like, there has to be a line in the sand for you as an artist, which is like, this is not part of my repertoire and I don't want it to be. And I'm going to, like, because I want a coherency to my brand. And I think there comes a point in your career, too, where, like, you're established to a certain point where, like, you have a signature. And there are some things that might violate that signature that are not, they just don't work in your brand identity. I think a lot of people jump to that way too soon. They worry about that stuff. And I'm like, you don't even have anything.
Right.
Like, you don't have a perspective. Like, if I look at your work, I wouldn't know what to expect from every one of your work for your next film. You know, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a good way. Like, you have a creative signature that tells me what you do, and I know this is going to work within your creative voice, and it's going to feel authentic to your brand. And I think that's where it cuts off is, like, if it feels forced for your brand, it will feel forced probably to everyone. If it feels forced to you, like if you're like, this is trendy, but like I never do this, but like, and I guess like I don't want to restrict anyone from trying something. I say people should try more. They should experiment more with things and see how it feels. But I do think the goal is that it feels natural to your brand and authentic to the types of films you make. And I do think like that's probably where the line is for me, where like, should I follow a trend or not, is like, some trends are going to be for you and some trends aren't. And you got to know the difference.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think when I think of very established people who have their look and what they typically do, when they make a decision to that's a bold, creative decision, maybe it's following a trend, maybe it's just trying something different, it does stand out immediately because you know it's like, oh, they don't normally do that. That's cool. Or, no, that's a little try-hardy, but I can see what they're trying to do. And maybe they did it and they won't do it again. But I'm glad they tried, you know. But for people that are just starting off, they're like doing a lot of things that, you know, they're all over the place.
You need to experiment, right?
You need to experiment. Sure.
At the beginning of your career is what I'm saying.
Definitely. So it's not a big deal. And honestly, you're probably not charging enough when you're first starting out that your clientele notices really and cares. They're like, oh, who's cheapest, or who, you know, is in my price range, and oh yeah, I like that one film he did. Great, am I high? Like, it doesn't really matter. So
well, ultimately, it's about like, it's like investing, right? When you're young, the way you invest is aggressive. You try to create growth, and you experiment, and you have a lot of failure, and you're just going. Some of you guys are the place in your career where you're investing, and you need to be aggressive, and you need to be experimental because you need some of these to hit. Some of you are in the place in your career where you're reaping, and like it's like you're moving all your assets to gold or something. Like you built up this thing, and all you're trying to do is maintain the thing that you built, and that's fine. You're probably going to be more risk averse.
Yeah.
You don't need to take risks because people are coming for what you offer. I think where this conversation takes a negative turn for a lot of young filmmakers or unsuccessful people who are like could be successful if they would try things a little more, is you're restricting their ability to experiment with their own brand that maybe find out their creative voice in a way that they normally wouldn't. And you need that season in your business. And some of it is there's a cheat code, which is like, try a bunch of trends that you've never tried before. Just try them. Maybe you like them. Maybe it works for your films. Like maybe like shooting all handheld is great. Maybe shooting no handheld is great. Maybe opening drone shots are, by the way, opening drone shots are just like a good shot. So like, shut up about that.
Watch a movie.
Yeah, just a shot. It's just like you know, you want to establish this was at the ocean. Should you do a close up of the water? Maybe, but also you could just fly your drone over the ocean, and no one's gonna be like, dumb.
Yeah. I mean, I just could think of a million movies that start out with an opening helicopter or drone shot. It's just establishes the setting immediately. It's just like a common practice. It's
not even a shot
trend.
It's not even a shot to me.
Yeah.
Like it's just like it's a camera but in the sky instead of on the ground. It's just a camera shooting a thing from a distance. Which, to me, a drone shot is just a wide push in.
Yeah. Well, again, the reason why it works is because it's so successful in telling a part of the story. It is you are here.
Well, people need to go to film school or something, or like at least study like composition, right?
Yeah.
Because like the reason, like if you do, now people do things more or often depending on the storyteller, right? Yeah. But like if you do an extreme close up, it always means a certain thing in storytelling. It's not like, oh, look at this trend of extreme close ups. Like there could be a trend, but also anyone could use an extreme close up to communicate a certain thing. And I'm sure we've all watched a movie and have been like, that wasn't shot the right way to communicate what they're trying to communicate. What are you basing that on? You're basing it on your knowledge of storytelling tropes.
Your movie vocabulary.
Yes, right? Your visual vocabulary. And like, it's limited. It's a limited amount of time, ways you can shoot things. And so like, you're naturally going to have repeating trends. And I think avoiding trends is not really a great use of your time, but figuring out what works for you is a good use of your time. And I don't really know how, like, do you think someone could start out their business to be timeless, and do you think that you have to go through seasons of experimentation before you can arrive at like your creative voice?
Well, I think a lot of early filmmakers should go through a season of completely ripping off and copying other people to know how to do things, know how to just tell a basic story and try the newest trends, like, and see if it works, see why you like a certain thing or maybe don't like.
And you're reducing like your decisions, right?
Right.
You're just focusing on the couple. And so you have like some given pre-established things you're going to try. They're not coming from your idea. You don't have to waste your creative energy. Right. You can focus on other things.
Yep. And, you know, obviously it dives into a little bit of like originality, but it's so every original idea is really just a ripoff of what someone else has done.
Most people don't have any original ideas.
Yeah.
And like, is that the point? Is that the point of this job? Do you think
being
couples?
Original?
Yeah. Do you think couples care about that?
No. I don't think so. I think originality is kind of just overrated and not real at this point, right? Maybe when the camera was first invented, there was plenty of originality.
Well, I mean, think about like, have you ever seen Eraserhead? The Lynch movie?
I don't think I have. Seen Pinhead.
Not That's not the name of the movie. Hellraiser.
Yeah.
But okay, but did you see Twin Peaks?
Yes, the show.
Which one? The original or the new one?
No, the new one.
They're both whatever.
Yeah.
You watch Twin Peaks, right?
Yes.
Eraserhead's about 5 times weirder, by the way.
Okay.
Which took 6 years to make, by the way.
Yeah.
It was like a student film. Regardless, you're making these weird, if you haven't seen it, it's avant-garde, right? It's avant-garde storytelling. They're weird. They are so purposely polarizing. Like, if you are truly original, you are guaranteed not popular.
Mm-hmm.
This is why we call it like avant-garde experimental music. Like, there are literally people who just like literally just make noise in front of us, like bang on pots, and like they're experimenting. It's like, it's weird and it's whatever. Most people want something familiar presented in a new way.
Yeah.
They don't actually want something original.
Mm-hmm.
They want it to taste exactly like a PB&J but look different.
Mm-hmm.
Like they want that comforting sense of familiarity. And I don't see why someone who's in wedding filmmaking, who's dealing with a timeless concept like relationships, marriage, and family, wouldn't just lean into that.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever been to like a college art museum?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I grew up in the punk and hardcore scene. I've been
know.
around all the weirdest art ever.
First of all, they're usually fairly empty, but it's full of a lot of original art.
Original art, yeah.
A lot of originality there. And, I would say I like to go to those because you go through and you're like, most things in here are stupid, are really dumb. But I might see something that I'm like, that's kind of cool. I like that. I like that aspect, or like I understand what they were trying to do or something. But the vast majority is going to be very polarizing. And I feel like a majority of people out there, I'll go to one of those museums. We went to a few in France that were like a little bit more like modern art. And my wife was like,
I actually love the Modern Art Museum in New York. I like it. I like the MoMA better than anyway.
Yeah. But I enjoyed it. But I'll drag my wife into that, and she absolutely hates it. It's so polarizing. And like she's like, you're gonna drag me through this whole thing. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna be able to get that far. But I will drag you through a room. And
I think the average person, by the way, who's saying this stuff is not educated on art. Right. They don't actually care. And this isn't to talk down on anyone, but they don't care about art.
Yeah.
They don't understand what actually being creative, like how far askew that is from the norm. And like what we are doing as artists in our field is we are doing what we are allowed to do by the customers.
Yes.
And so somebody pays a price and blazes a little bit of a trail for us, and then we see what we're allowed to get away with. And that's what a trend is. It's like somebody has vetted this idea that like now we can whip our cameras. That would have been literally sacrilege when we first started.
Yeah. Yeah.
That you could add like an edgy element to a wedding film. Now it's expected and normal.
Yep.
And so it's like, thank God for trends and thank God for people who are willing to try new stuff.
Yep.
But do you want to be that guy? Maybe not. Do you even have the right to be that guy? Well, go for it, I guess. But like most people, I don't think have a perspective that's even worth copying.
Well, and a lot of artists in the wedding world are actually averse to confrontation and creating a lot of super trendy, cool things. We'll get a lot of emails sent your way that are unhappy customers that are like, I was expecting this and I got this. What the heck? Like,
I'm telling you guys,
do you want to deal with that?
At the top of the market, the more money me and Jared charge, we are probably pushing like 16, 17 grand on invoices for Huxley Film. And I'm not saying that as a brag. I'm just kind of giving you a perspective of like where the clientele is right now. The more we push, the more we charge, the less we're allowed to do. Mm-hmm. Like they will literally be like, we don't want, see that film you like? People will literally do this and have done it several times. Don't make that for me. Mm-hmm. I don't want that. I trust you because this wedding planner told us you can make it. Don't make that film. I want this film. I want this boring film. You know the one you don't like? That's the one I want.
Yep.
And it's like, so I think that's where like the limitations hit of trendiness. And like,
That's where your originality is getting you, guys.
well, and even trendiness is like, I think like that's what most people mean
Yeah.
is they say, I want to make a timeless film. What they mean is I want to make a safe film that most people like.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a perfectly good perspective. But realize your safe film is built on trends that have now been accepted as normal.
Yeah, vetted over and over and over
They've
again.
been vetted.
And improved upon over and over and over again. And yep, so I think that's the point. I think this is a valuable conversation. I'm glad it turned out the way that it did. I think it's a good one, actually.
I remember Henry Martin said something to me a couple years ago, and he was like, I used to try to make timeless films, but now I don't bother because I think it being dated is part of the charm.
Mm.
And I agree with him.
Yeah.
I think that you should try to make films that firmly ground your couple in the day that they had, in the time period that they were married in. I don't think you should worry about it not looking like a film that was shot in 2010 or 2024 in 30 years.
Yeah.
You should, that's part of the charm of it, is like nobody looks at their 1980s wedding film and is like, oh, it's disgusting to me. It's not shot in 4K.
Yep.
They like love it for what it is because it being the way it is reminds them of 1984 when they got married.
Right.
It's the whole point of wedding filmmaking.
I would also say, this whole conversation aside, talking about timelessness versus trendiness, I will definitely use timelessness in all of my marketing material.
Of course. Of course.
Because it's what everyone wants to hear about what their wedding film will be, even though it's an impossibility. So
Yes.
that's probably a totally different
and
conversation.
the customer doesn't want to hear that you actually want it to be dated and you'll like it in 20 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I know that that's true, but like
Right.
but the customer wants it to be
Safe.
safe. But what they really are saying is make sure that you focus on me and my friends and family.
Yeah, that's it.
No matter what
That's
that
it.
you do.
Yep.
Don't do anything that takes away. And I will say this. My caution to all of you is, the caution with trendiness is, you don't want everyone to know that you were more excited about doing that one thing in your film than actually filming a good film. And I can tell when somebody's like, they submit a film to wedding film school, right? And I'm like, why did you submit this? It's just a normal, there's nothing about this that you want critique. And I know what it really is this is the first film that they brought out the FPV.
Okay.
And it's obvious that the FPV is really important to them, that they think it covers up all the mistakes in the film, that it's like, yeah, but look at that. That's cool. Like, it's like, yeah, but your color is bad and your story is bad and your music is bad. Who cares about that FPV? And I don't let any technique or any editing trick or any color grade be more important than actually just doing the fundamentals correctly. I would be like, do your fundamentals, then maybe experiment, but get that crap down and make sure that you can do a wedding film and like a boring wedding film that's just basic. And I think that's the one caution I'd give you is like, if it's obvious in your wedding films that like, whether it be one thing you're doing really well and everything else you're doing really poorly because you're interested in this, or like it just doesn't fit, it looks out of place, you ever see those people who have like one really good camera?
Yeah.
And that's not exactly the same subject,
Sure.
but like it stands out in a negative way. It actually makes everything look worse.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the same with like a really good executed trick. Is
You mean one good camera and a couple bad cameras?
Yes. Yeah, one good camera, a couple bad cameras. It's the same as like you have one very fleshed out concept because you're copying it like a trend, and you're rolling off other people's experience and what works, and so you're killing the camera whips. There's great camera whips, or you have this great, really cool shots of like freaking diffraction in front of your lens, and like it's beautifully lit. Like you ever see people with like a great high production value ring shot, and then like all they're getting ready is this orange, horribly lit stuff. That bothers me.
Yes.
It's like, I'm like, dude, your one thing looks good in your whole film.
Yep.
The rest,
Right.
And it's like, don't do that. Don't do that. But also, don't worry about doing something just because it's trendy. If it feels good and it looks good, do it.
Yep. So, guys, hopefully this has been an interesting conversation. There are a lot of ways that you can connect with Wedding Film School. The podcast, the YouTube channel, our Facebook group is a couple great places to start. Jason hosts the Wedding Film School shows every Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you'd like to have a film critiqued, make sure you're going onto our website. There's a link there where you can submit your film for the guys to look at and potentially critique live on YouTube. There's also one more thing that you wanted to bring into the mix, Jay. Why don't you tell Wedding Film School listeners about that?
So we are launching a new thing called Luma Sites, which is a web design company, which we've been doing web design for 14 years. So we're not new to web design. So if you're like, why would I hire a random wedding filmmaker to make websites? Me and Jared have owned a web design firm. We've done it for companies. We've done it for ourselves. If you like our website, Stop Go Love or Huxley Film or Merriman Films or Wedding Film School or any of the sites we're involved in, we made them. We made those sites. We know how to make websites. But one of the things we wanted to do was serve the wedding filmmaking community and make it easier for you to have really beautiful stuff. And, you know, when we were starting Luma Sites, we wanted to do custom site design, and we still are going to offer custom site design. But I kind of quickly realized, like, most wedding filmmakers are just looking for a great template. And so we have come up with a whole range of templates. I'm not sure when this is coming out, this episode, but we have a whole range of WordPress templates, and we're actually adding on Show It templates as well. And so we're going to give you 10% off if you head over to lumasites.com and you just enter the code WFS Show. You can get 10% off any of the templates that are up there. We have a whole bunch of them, I think like 8 or 10 right now. And they're really just, you know, we didn't see many themes that were really targeted at wedding filmmaking. There were a lot of wedding photography themes. And we were like, let's make some stuff that will be targeted at not just wedding filmmakers, but we'll also kind of have some just kind of almost turnkey. You just got to put your assets in and it will look beautiful. You can change the color. Additional, though, and not just themes, we offer support. So if you get one of these sites and you don't like something, you can, for an additional cost, of course, pay for customization. You can customize your own theme. And, of course, we can still offer custom web design services as well. And so we're really excited about this. So if you head over to lumasites.com and you can check out what we do. And if it works, buy a theme. If you have questions, reach out and I'm happy to answer them.
Yep. Another thing that we do every once in a while is wedding filmmakers website critiques on WFS Live. And that's probably where this idea was born out of, because we just realized people needed a lot of help. Websites are the first line of your sales process.
Yeah,
right?
it's like
in a lot of cases,
it's a business card.
It's a business card, and so if your business card sucks, more than likely people won't stick around for very long.
And the thing about it is you don't actually need much. Mm-hmm. It just needs to look clean and professional and good. Like, I don't think you should overcomplicate it. That's our whole philosophy is like, keep it simple, straight line, and like fill out that form.
Yep.
Like, get to that form, show the work as quick as possible, but don't make them dig in. They're not going to watch 20 of your films on your website, guys. So that's what social media is for. That's what YouTube is for.
Yep.
And so at the end of the day, we have a particular perspective, I think, on what a wedding film website is for. And we think it's something that will make it easier for newer filmmakers to just get off the ground and get focused on what they really want to do is make films. You don't want to be focusing on that stuff.
Yep. So anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure you tune in next time right here on the Wedding Film School.